Okay guys, we're going to use fonts to create vector objects, and his idea, this is just a review from class. File, new, and you're going to create your 5.5 by 3.75 width document. That's what I have here. Then you're going to go to file, sorry, I have to have a new layer select place, and I'm going to select this type. This is the first guy here. It's about the size that we want it. You can see if you drag it over, it's it's going to be roughly the size of the artboard. First and foremost, I'm going to embed it, and then I am going to hunt around for a font that looks sort of like this. I already know that copper works pretty well, but just to show you here, if I type in the word type, I don't really see it because of course it's black. So if I select the whole thing, I can drag it up over here. I can change its color, and I'm going to select a different color. I'm going to select this magenta color for right now, because what I'm going to do is trace over top of this original object. So with it selected, and make sure that you select it not with the type tool, but with the selection tool. That's the black arrow. You go up here to type, create outlines, and you can see what it did. If I zoom in, which is Command plus, it now has a bunch of anchor points and paths. So fonts aren't really vector shapes per se, but this is a way to turn them into vector shapes. What we're going to be doing is sculpting these. So I know that this font, this copper STD, love the name, or copper black, they both work. I think they're virtually the same, to be honest. Make something that look roughly like the font here. Holding down Shift with my selection tool can make it bigger, and I'm going to start by making it almost that same size. And you can see I got a lot of manipulating I have to do. Just a side note, if you want to change the width of the spacing, sorry, with the letters, all that happens up here in the character panel, and that's under Window. Any panel that you don't see, it's going to either be checked or not checked here. So anyway, I open the character panel. By the way, that's under Type, Character. So I got this little guy here. You can select your fonts. A couple things on fonts, just to go back. You can actually preview roughly what they look like here. So say for instance, I want to come over here and, oops, I want to find a font that looks different. I can select the whole thing with the type tool. Come over here and select different fonts this way. Also, you'll see that you can see the character here, and that will open up the character panel as well, which is kind of cool. It's kind of convenient. Within that, you can change the spacing of your letters, so you can see how they space far apart or less. This is for paragraphs, so your returns are going to be bigger, smaller. Size of your font, of course. Whether you want it to be fatter or skinnier, all that stuff is right here. So really easy to access if you just click character. If you just click on the font, it just lists them, and it's kind of inconvenient because you don't know what they look like. Okay, I'll select this guy and delete it. I have this. I've now turned it into a vector shape. Once again, that's the selection tool. Select the whole thing, go to type, and create outlines. It's not letting me because I've already done that. Well, you're saying, well, gee, now I want to be able to move each letter individually, and that's totally fine. Easily done. Go up to your object and ungroup. And now each one is selected. Or selectable, I should say. So this P and the Y, of course, those things need to kind of stick together a little bit more. The E, if I bring it over here, you can tell, like, you know, this crossbar here, or the eye is needing to be tilted. So if you just hover over the corner of your vector shapes, it'll let you kind of show you what you need to do. So I'm just going to roughly get these into place. And it looks like this T actually needs to go down a little bit. Okay, that's that. I'm going to select all of them. Something I'm going to also do, by the way, is make sure that this type here that we've embedded is locked. So I've done all this already. I'm going to turn on these layers. I have the type menu, and then of course I have my guys here. I'm going to scale them up. And I have them on separate layers. So they're a little bit too big, it's okay. The reason for this is that it's just managing this original image and the objects on the same layer like I had here. It requires me to go in, and you can see I have each one, T, Y, P, and E, and then I have the original image. And so it's just an extra thing that I have to click down and get into this sub menu. Just a hassle. So what I did was every time I create something new in Illustrator, I go down here and I click a new file folder. And you can also get rid of them by selecting them all and dragging them to the trash if you want. So this one I'm going to lock it so I don't accidentally grab it. So you can see right now I can't do anything to it. It's locked, but I can still grab all of these guys here. One thing I'm also going to do is this layer here, I'm going to lower the opacity. You have to select each object to do this. Oops. You can also do this before you ungroup. But what that does is it allows me to see through it, and that's why I changed the color of them. So they're distinctly different from the original. And I'm going to actually just work letter for letter here. Okay, so let's zoom in on this. Control plus. Come over and go, okay, well, it looks kind of like it, but it's not quite like it. First of all, I think it needs to be stretched. And since I can see through it, I can already start to get a sense for where I need to make some changes. So I'm going to just start with, I think this edge looks fine here. It comes down and it starts to make that same curve. This is where we use the direct selection tool. This is like a pair of tweezers that grabs the individual anchor points. And I'm going to start here. I'm going to click that once and then click it again and drag it over. And you can see it's, it starts to look a little bit funny, and that's okay. That's where managing the anchor points becomes sort of an art form. Grab this anchor, bring it over. Grab this anchor. Remember, I'm clicking once and then clicking it again. It doesn't let you just click and drag. And note this here. I zoom in. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between a handle and an anchor. So, make sure a little indicator lights up and tells you exactly what you're doing. Get close. Okay? Don't be afraid to zoom in. You want to zoom in. That's what's going to help you do this right. Okay, Alt with the direct selection tool allows you to drag just one handle at a time. And as far as I know, it generally remembers, not always, but it remembers that you just want to do these independent of one another. So I'm going to do this, and it's a little hard to find that handle there. It's okay. It'll make more sense as you go. And then maybe I need to just look at this as is. So I'll turn off that layer, just with a little eyeball here, and I can see, oh yeah, got kind of a funny kink there. So kind of adjust that into place. At first, this seems like extreme tedium, but it makes sense and gets easier as you go. This type one is actually probably the easiest one, I'm going to guess. For me, it is. And so, you can see I have something that starts to look right. I have to come up here, do the same thing. Now, oftentimes, Illustrator is going to give you more anchor points than you need, and in this case we have way more than we need. So for instance, like rounding a corner, you don't need 3 anchor points, and that's what having a curved anchor point is really for. It's for making something nice and round. It's called a Bezier handle. And that Bezier curve makes something that's really round. So you wouldn't need a lot of anchor points. But sometimes when you convert a type to a vector, it turns into a lot of anchor points. So you can come in and kind of delete some of these out, actually. That's what I'm going to do here. I don't need that one, so I'm going to just select them individually and delete them. Okay. Bring this guy over here. Let's see. There's an anchor right there. Bring it up. Okay, that looks funny. I have that funny little handle there. A couple things you can do. Since this is a right angle, the original is just, right angle right here, you can convert anchor points. So with the direct selection tool, select that anchor point. You come up here and see how the convert tells you, okay, it can be a corner or it could be a curve. You have to make sure to have the anchor actually selected to do that. Mine wasn't selected at first, and then I just converted that. Now something to note as well, if I turn off this, I see my object. If I go to View, go to Outline, you just see the path. And in our case here, since I deleted some anchor points, it didn't fill in a path. Not always necessary, but if you want to fill those back in, make sure I have just the pen tool, hotkey P, selected. And when I hover over that anchor, it gives me a slash. It tells me it's going to pick up on the existing path. So I click it once, and then that little O next to the pen tells me it's going to close the path. So now I just finished it off. Like I said, not completely necessary, but in some cases it will be. So just know that that's there. Okay, same thing here. I got to go and just click A. It's the hotkey for the direct selection tool. And I'm going to get that anchor, select it, convert it to a point. It's good. I'm going to do the same thing for this guy. So we get a nice hard 90-degree turn right there. So could probably take a little more adjusting, but we'll move on here. Oops. Last but not least, this guy here. And see what happened there? I just clicked and dragged, so move the whole thing. Just going to do Command Z, click it once, and then drag the little guy up. I'm not going to bother filling the path in, but I am going to kind of straighten these out. Just like so. Basically, that's it. Once I'll just do this one. Once you have things the way you like them, drag his handle way out. There we go. Oh yeah, in this case here, hold down Alt, drag that handle all the way back to the anchor point, and it will convert that one side to a 90-degree angle, and it will leave the other side a curve. It's really helpful to know. Okay, once you have things the way you like them, you can always go back with the direct selection tool and up the opacity. Change the color. And then delete the original, or turn off the original. Now last thing, we need another background back here, so if you click a new folder or a new layer, drag it underneath in the stacking order. It's right here. I'm going to create a background because I can't see that white letter anymore. Just going to use the rectangle tool, change the color to black. And what just happened there is I had the type tool selected, so I'm going to go back, or I had my object selected. You have to make sure to have it deselected. Now you can't see it, don't panic, it's still there. Click the rectangle, make it black, make it the size of your page, and you can see in the stacking order I didn't actually bring it over, so I'll just bring it down below.